The year is 1501. Or, wait, is it 1547? Well, actually, it's both. You see, it's a rare thing that there would be two events happening on the same day in different years that would correspond as the ones that do today. Sometimes it can be hard to see the thread between events, how this thing led to that. But sometimes, like today, we can see the thread clearer than anything else. This is the In History Show on the Semper Reformanda podcast. I'm your host, Cody Bockelkamp. In 1501, on this day in history, there would be a group that would publish a hymn book, and it would be the very first of its kind. What was so special about this hymn book, you ask? Well, it was special because it was the first one not to be written in Latin. Those who published it were followers of a man named Hus. Now, Hus was a minister in Prague where, having been inspired by John Wycliffe, determined that social reform of wrongs being done and perpetrated by the Catholic Church could only be done if the common person could understand the scriptures and songs in their language, as the scriptures and the songbooks were all written in Latin. So, Hus was eventually branded a heretic by the Catholic Church and executed by burning at the stake. His crime? Translating the Bible into the common language of his people for them to read. So naturally, the followers of Hus on this day in history, motivated by his legacy, worked on and produced the first hymn book not written in Latin. But what about the other event today in history? And what does it have to do with this hymn book? Well, you see, Jan Hus was an instrumental piece of kindling that lay for the German monk Martin Luther to set the Reformation ablaze. Luther himself, looking back at Hus and then looking at the current Reformation, said, "We are all Hussites." Luther's spark that finally lit the match of the Reformation had a great focus around the nature of justification. How is one made right with God? Is it by grace through faith alone? Is it by works? Can indulgences remove punishment for sin and make one right with God? This was in part the nature of the Reformation. And it was these events that led to our second event today in history, the Council of Trent. The Council of Trent was the gathering of the Catholic leadership in order to formally respond to the events and theology of the Protestant Reformation. Known as the Counter-Reformation, it was to some degree a changing of some of the Catholic stances, as well as a doubling down and firming of others. One of the stances taken in the council was regarding to the doctrine of justification. The council stated this: "If anyone saith that the justice received is not preserved and also increased before God through good works, but that the said works are merely the fruits and signs of justification obtained, but not a cause of the increase thereof, let them be anathema. In case you didn't catch that, what was being said is this: if you do not believe that justification is not preserved, that is, kept or held onto, and also increased because of your good works, you are anathema, or cut off. If you say that those good works are merely fruit or signs that you were already justified, you are anathema, or cut off. This is the issue of the Reformation. And today, in history, we see two events over 40 years apart to illustrate this point. Jan Hus, part of the fuel of the fire of the Reformation sparked by Luther, on the basis of justification by grace alone through faith alone, contrasted by the Council of Trent, doubling down on the fusion of grace and works for justification. My question to you on this day in history is, how well do you know your scriptures? How well have you studied your Bible? Do you understand the theological battle of the Reformation? And can you yourself defend the justification on the basis of grace alone, through faith alone? I think this day in history should cause us to reflect on those very questions. This episode of the Semper Reformanda podcast was written and produced by me. Special thanks to Josh Koval for the music. Thanks. We'll see you next time.